We're back with another episode of the Nassaman Hockey Podcast on a game day, so we won't have updates on the Jets game while you're listening to this on Thursday morning or evening, or maybe even Friday before the weekend. A game that James Nichols will be at tonight. You excited?
I will. I am. I haven't been on Long Island in seems like a while. I've been heavily in Newark, so I'm excited to go. Just a spectator tonight. My wife got me tickets for my birthday because she knows I wanted to just go and sorry, not my birthday, for Christmas. My birthday is coming up, but she got me tickets for Christmas, knowing I've wanted to just have a night of not working but just viewing. But you know what I'm most excited for, and we were talking about this a little bit before we hit record. But you know what I'm most excited for, John?
I think I do. I think I know why you're excited.
The Bridgeport Islanders' new alternate jersey, third jersey, whatever you will, is going to be available starting tonight in the Isles Lab.
So I definitely wanted to talk about this. So that's why I paused us before. I was like, let's hit record because I think this is a good conversation. I want to put aside for a second that they could have done a throwback of the Sound Tigers and their connection there, and what it's been like 2 years, 2 seasons, maybe even 3 that they've been the Islanders. 3 sounds like a long time, but I can hardly keep track anymore.
It is 2.
It is 2. So I think to deepen their connection to the team and to kind of dive into the name a little bit more, they decided to go with the Fisherman throwback, which is cool.
Yeah.
What do you think about it kind of on its own, and then in comparison to the Islanders version of the same thing?
What do I think of the jersey on its own, as in, like, should they have gone a different route for retro?
No, just the opinion on like the jersey itself. Like, what do you think about it in general?
Beautiful. It's friggin' beautiful. I'm hoping to be first in line to get this thing tonight because as you know, I've said this to you, I'm starting to collect jerseys, and that as soon as I saw it, I said, "Yep, goes to the top of the list," because I've already, and I will show it to you, maybe even wear it on an episode. Sorry if you hear my daughter screaming in the background, by the way. But I will, I will wear it on an episode in the future. I did order my Bo Horvat Western Conference but New York Islanders patch All-Star jersey. That should be here.
Did you actually get one of those?
Oh, I got it.
I didn't. All right. So you did. You mentioned that before we started. I did not know that's what it was. Don't even take the tags off of that. That's your kid's college fund. Maybe. I don't know how any of this stuff works as far as jerseys are concerned, but it sounds like it. It's so unique. It's going to be one of those things where
there's not going to be many of those. Like in a few years, right? Like you'll see one, like you love to scour eBay, and every once in a while you come across one of those jerseys. It's like, oh man, like there's so few of these. That jersey is going to be one of them because it's the Islanders don't play in the Western Conference. So as soon as I saw they were available for purchase, I was like, yeah, I'm not hesitating. I'm getting that one. Same concept with this Bridgeport Islander jersey too, by the way, because I don't know. I don't believe at this moment they're selling them online. You have to get them in person. And I know that
I thought there was a link or something going live soon, but maybe
I think maybe in a few weeks that might be true, but I think as of at least right now, you can only get them in person starting tonight on today's the 22nd of February. I'm going to the Isles Lab and I'm getting that bad boy because again, like I've at this point, I think I've removed my fandom and I'm just like an objective reporter, or I try to be, but that jersey is friggin' beautiful. Now, in comparison to the New York Islanders reverse retro jersey, I did like it before, and now I kind of sit there and I say to myself, but they could have had this.
Isn't it better?
Way better. Like,
I love a white jersey, which is not
better. Oh yeah.
I think that's not a popular opinion, right? I'm not saying it's like I'm so unique in that, because I think a lot of people like white jerseys. Yeah. This one in particular, and even the older, like the original white versions of the jersey. Now I have a Wave Islander jersey and the Fisherman in the blue, and of course they look fantastic. But I love the originals. I love the white versions of those, and I've actually been seeking out
Yeah.
the originals in the other colors as well. In in the white, um, my my pocketbook does not allow every time something pops up, but it does make me want to, when I do travel back to Long Island and I stay with my parents for a couple days or my mom for a couple days, I always want to look up estate sales and just go digging for that. Somebody has them somewhere.
Yeah.
Like there are so many popping up on eBay for years and years and years. People have more than one. Eventually, they sell them. I sold one to buy another one because I had two fisherman jerseys, so I sold one and got the Wave jersey, which is more of a not a replica. It's not a starter jersey. It was actually a CCM. I love that. And there's like a lot of versions of these things out there. But I
Yeah.
definitely do like this white one. Now, what I want to wait for is, does the stripe do the weird thing off
I
the hip? I
I'm
can't
looking.
tell.
I can't tell either. I'm looking at the Bridgeport Islanders Twitter, and there's so many people who I think got them at like this season ticket holder event yesterday. So like they got first dibs, and they're all wearing it, but there's no
Yeah, I can't
side
tell.
profile from it's the right side of the jersey. All of the all of the pictures are from the left side, or at
That's
least
funny.
they're standing with the left sides like looking forward. So it kind of, I'm kind of inclined to believe that it is that way because maybe it doesn't look good in a picture. Um, but
It
one little
super doesn't.
detail, one yeah, it super doesn't. But one little detail that I kind of love because it's so subtle, but it's true to the team is, and I don't know if you saw this in the orange. There's little silhouettes of the Bridgeport Islander logo. It's so
I
subtle.
did see that.
Yeah, so if you wear it, it looks like an Islander jersey, but you have to look real hard and be like, oh, there's Bridgeport symbols in there, which I kind of love because it's
Oh
obviously
yeah.
their jersey. But like you could, if you're a fan and you want to go to an Islander game and just wear this, like you could, and it wouldn't be quote unquote fake. It like this is part of the team.
There's part of me that wishes they would just go to this jersey because it makes sense for Connecticut to some degree. They're on the Long Island Sound, and
Yes.
there's a fishing community, and there's all sorts of. It's not quite the same like beach and surfing kind of thing like Long Island and Montauk, and you kind of have all these connections and to the ocean or whatever. I kind of wish they would just go and use this jersey. Like if the Islanders are not going to ever go back to this, um, they made a terrible Bridgeport Islanders logo when they released it a couple years ago, which is just such a bummer
You,
because they
you
could
know,
have just done this then, right? Although maybe they were waiting and they knew this was eventually going to come and whatever. As far as like the NHL team using it, I wonder why they wouldn't just switch to this as like a permanent alternate or something. It's also unique that they're using the white jersey at all because presumably they're using it at home. So that's a little bit of a. I mean, they had to differentiate from the New York Islanders jersey, right? Like they couldn't do that.
yeah,
So
of
like I
course.
understand why, but it is different. Like we haven't really seen that. There've been a couple NHL teams that their throwbacks or whatever was a lighter color, but this is more of a traditional, just a white jersey and a throwback than anything else. But I kind of wish they would just use it as their jersey. Like it would. I feel like it
I
would make just as much sense for them.
I'm almost wondering, I'm like, because I think there's like some sort of clause in the reverse retro initiative that once it's over, I don't think teams can use that jersey as a third or
What?
as
Why would
yeah,
they do?
I'm pretty
Why
sure
are there
because
so many?
it's an Adidas thing. It's an Adidas thing. I'm pretty
Why
sure
are there's
Adidas.
so many rules in this league that just like, how can we have fun but only so much fun? Like
So right,
we wouldn't want to do this. Like we wouldn't just have like like
and
relax, everyone. Come on,
so this
what a
is me just
lame league.
this is me just purely speculating. But what if the Islanders, knowing that this was the rule, made the reverse retro the way they did, then happened to release this AHL Islanders alternate jersey as a test run to see how well received it would be. And next year, maybe this is their new third jersey.
It's possible. I think that test period is already done. Like, think about how long they've been kind of like dripping. This is going back to when they were in Brooklyn, right? So this, like, they were back at the Coliseum for a little bit, Feels like a really long time, actually. Brooklyn seems really far away at this point. I forget. I can't even really remember the last time that they were there, but they were dripping that stuff out then. You remember they did the warm up jerseys were the fisherman logo
Yeah.
with the actual like the nameplates were the right thing, the numbers were the right size.
The base of that
Um,
practice logo, practice jersey was just like navy blue or some sort of blue like that.
it wasn't even an Islander blue, if I'm remembering. It was like
No.
a different thing. Anyway, um, so they've been like they were doing those mock-up jerseys with the screen printed jerseys and not the stitched jerseys for a long time. I think that was back to Barclays. You can still find them on eBay. Ask me how I know. And so like they've been doing this a long time. Like I think that trial balloon era with this is over. They were even selling the wave jerseys for a period of time
Yeah, the
in the
vintage.
Isles. If they're not if not still continuing to do that. So like I think that trial era is over. That could be like just a continuation of like, all right, is it really? Can we do it everywhere? Like if this was a permanent third jersey, which would be a great idea, but they should just go back to the full get up at that point. Bring the teal back. This was a reverse retro, and there was like a specific thing with this, and I understand. But if you're gonna use it as a third jersey, bring back the socks. Um, bring back the. I don't know that you could do the helmet decals like they used to do because now they have the sponsors on the side. But yeah, there's a real opportunity there of like to maybe to your point, a little bit of your point anyway, to go back to that as a third jersey. Abandon the knockoff weird. They ripped off an already bad jersey in the Stadium Series jersey to make a third jersey, and then just use that, and it's terrible. Like to
Yeah,
to think about the Islanders fisherman logo and be like, oh, they took the Long Island out of it and blah blah blah, and then to completely ignore the fact that the Stadium Series jersey is just the NY and has nothing to do with anything, just because they didn't lose as much as they did in the fisherman jersey, which you could probably look up and compare the stats, and it might not be as different as you think. But yeah, that seems weird. I'd go back to the original get up and kind of just do it. I love that. It looked, I don't know I can't remember what the pants looked like. I'm sure they were just like blue, which is fine. But
yeah, I think they were.
I don't think they
I,
had anything special on it.
I really, and again, this is just me, spitballing. I don't think that, or I'm not confirming anything of the sort, but I would love to see like the NY has been around a while now. I think it's time to move on from that and like
The third
not
jersey, not like in the logo. Someone's gonna like
correct.
misconstrue that.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
the
like
third
yes,
jersey.
just the knockoff Stadium Series jersey.
The right. I think it's time to move on from that. Like, I'm not saying burn it from the history, but like the NY is cool and everything, but it's the Islanders circular logo, the original logo, and the fishermen are the logos. And when you put out a friggin' jersey that's as beautiful as the one that just did, like if they're not gonna go back to the teal and everything, the originals, I think this would have been the next best thing. The one that
I could
they
agree with
they
that.
did for the reverse retro was good when it came out, and I liked it. And I still do like it. I don't want to say I dislike it now, but now that this one came out, I don't want anything to do with that one anymore. I want this one.
Yeah, I think they're both cool. It'd be great if Bridgeport adopted this a little more often. It'd be great for the Islanders to kind of do
Yeah,
the same and just look. There's not a lot you can listen to as far as like what the fans want. This seems like low hanging fruit. Like okay, this is what they
yeah,
this is what they want. It has nothing like it's not going to change anything. There's um and it takes a little bit of the desire away, like the demand, like or yeah, maybe over time the demand goes down. But it's just a fun, different thing. Like you can figure that out. I'm not in sales and production and any of that kind of stuff. But like while it's hot, I completely understand why they're doing it and why they might do a limited. Kind of to your point, right? They may just go, we're going to go back to the OGs, so that people will want that one too, and it makes these even more desirable, probably in the secondhand market. But whatever's left will make it more desirable. So I
Oh
don't know what
yeah.
the strategy is there. I kind of wish I did because I think it's very interesting. And I wish we had Nick Hirschhorn on, which we still have an opportunity to do because he has a fascinating story about how he was involved in all of this. Um, Maybe one of these days. He's been on before. You can go search through our videos and on Apple or YouTube or wherever you listen to the show. Uh, definitely a good interview. And I wish we had known more about it then. Maybe he didn't even know. I think it was a couple years ago, so it's probably preceded this by quite a while.
Yeah.
Um, I'd also love if they just brought back the Wave Islander jersey too as a third. Like, all
That'd
right,
be
if
cool.
you're not going to do the fisherman, just do that. Like, bring the teal back and kind of like make it a thing, and keep the original crest, although update it with which I'm sure they did on the fan jerseys. Add a third uh, line there on the stick because on the original, up until like 2010 or something like that, it only had 3 stripes on the stick. It didn't have 4. Um,
Correct.
so it's which is like another interesting little piece of how you can tell different jerseys apart and so on and so forth. Just to end the jersey conversation here, I know people really didn't like these. It abandoned the colors. It was like a whole thing. The Brooklyn jerseys,
Hmm.
aside from the NY, if they just use like a white Islanders logo, like the original crest on those jerseys, I think those would have looked really good. Like I enjoyed, yes, it was different. It was a departure. They were in Brooklyn. They were embracing that. If they were just going to stay there forever, I understood that as a third jersey. I just didn't like the NY. That on all 3 of the jerseys that they had, it just didn't look good.
So just the original logo on a black jersey,
Yeah,
almost like
similar to All Star
the
jersey,
it's like we
which
do a
is dope.
podcast or something.
Yeah, we should do that. But I like it's a very subtle little striping on the socks
Yeah.
and on the jersey. I thought it was just very crisp. Like I don't mind a black jersey and it's interesting. It's not very unique anyway.
Yeah.
But it would have been different to just have like a very black and white jersey with no other color on it. It doesn't really make much sense now. Obviously, that's never going to come back. But as an unpopular opinion, I kind of enjoy those jerseys outside of the outside of the crest.
No, I enjoyed them too. I have one, a Johnny Boychuk one, because
That's
you
cool.
know, yeah, I was part of, I was a young fan when they moved to Brooklyn, and um, I was one of those optimistic fans. I'm still optimistic now. It's just, I guess, the kind of person I am. But when they moved and this was the direction they were headed in, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna embrace it. So I did, and I got a Johnny Boychuk one because I love Johnny Boychuk. And again, I agree with you. The logo is the best. No, if would it have been cooler if it was the OG? Yeah. But they made that decision, and that's what it was. But again, now that they're making these new decisions and going with, I guess you could say, the fan demand, right? I don't know, and I'd love to get a grasp on how the fan base is split up at this point, because there's obviously a whole wave of new fans. How much of that makes up for the percentage of the fan base versus the dynasty era fans and everything, everyone before the fisherman, right, that hates it now. Because obviously there was demand for this fisherman jersey, and they've made it, and they've remade it, and they've now brought it down to the AHL, and that's an indication to me that the sales were so good that they were like, okay, we're doing this in Bridgeport too, because I think we're going to make even more money. And like I said earlier, I'd bet money that this is a test run for, does this color scheme work for next year? Can we make this our third jersey next year? I'd bet money. I don't know, but I kind of hope they do.
Yeah, and speaking, so just to kind of segue into on the ice Islanders and all that kind of stuff, as much as we can probably drone on and on about the jerseys. You said you're an optimist, and weeks ago when we had been having a discussion about the team and when will we know kind of where this team is. So we're kind of past that point, right? We said after really by that Ottawa game, which we had discussed, and I made a very bold, I want to say claim, bold guess, or whatever you want to call it. Um, that after that loss, I didn't think Lambert was coming back. Obviously, I was wrong. I'll own that. I'll eat crow, whatever you want to call it. Um, But either way, we thought that that week, by February 17th, the night of the Penguins game, we'd have a little more clarity about where the Islanders were. Do you think now, having gone through that weekend and things are very different, there are injuries, there's, for three major Islanders and Bailey, Peugeot, and Barzell, there have been some call-ups. There have been some off games by goalies. There have been great games by goalies. As you're an optimistic fan, journalist, whatever, where do you see the Islanders now, and how and when might they be making some decisions? Because it seems like things are up in the air as far as that's concerned. What those decisions might be. Is it a little bit of both as far as buying or selling? Is it just, I'll let you answer. So where do you see the team now? And we'll kind of just I wanted this to be more of a free flowing discussion because I think it's very complicated. And it's really not worth going into like a lot of detail and trying to track like each game and how did it go. I do want to talk about the Bruins game a little bit just as a microcosm to like a bigger, set of problems, obviously. But, I'll kind of let the conversation meander as it goes.
So it's crazy to say. It's like I texted you after they won that Pittsburgh game, and I was like, it's friggin' impossible to measure this team or to predict what they are. Now, looking at their schedule for February, in 8 games, they've collected points in at least 5 of them. They've won outright, 1, 2, 3 of them. They collected points against Montreal in overtime. They lost. And against the Senators in the shootout, they lost. Look, Pittsburgh is a team that is also on a downward trend. I think they're currently still in the second wild card spot. The Islanders leaped them for the first. But I don't know. I'm going to the game tonight, and I'd love to see how they perform against a Jets team who have an equally astute goaltender in net as Ilya Sorokin. Connor Hellebuck has been playing fantastic hockey this season, and largely a large part of the reason why the Islanders are kind of buoying right now is because of Ilya Sorokin. Bo Horvat's been really good. But they lose Matt Barzell and they get shellacked against the Boston Bruins, a legitimate playoff contending Stanley Cup team. And you just wonder, once they get to the playoffs, are they going to be able to keep up? They win games against a middling Flyers squad, a Pittsburgh team who's just continuing to age, and even though they keep going all in, bringing back a Letang, Crosby, and a Malkin, and you can never count that trio out. The supporting cast isn't very good, and the goaltending is a bit shaky there. So you could understand why that team is on a downward trend. It's so hard to. I mean, look, it's not hard to envision what's going to happen. Lamoriello believes in this team, regardless of injuries, regardless of who's missing. That's why he went out and got Bo Horvat. So I'm not sitting here saying he's going to buy at the deadline, because what does he have left to retrieve? Or what assets does he have left to make another move? But
that's where it's interesting. I think that's where that's where the combination might come in, right? What do you Varlamov? You're thinking about Varlamov and Mayfield. I really don't think Parise gets traded, even though he's a UFA, because I think he's going to just continue to come back as an Islander, and frankly, he friggin' should be, because he's been probably, save for maybe Brock Nelson and Sorokin, probably the best Islander over the last 2 seasons. I'm not even sure it's that. I'm not even sure it's that close, to be perfectly honest with you. As far as consistency, obviously he's not missed any games, but for what he actually brings to the table, he's been kind of amazing. So you could leverage a Mayfield, knowing that knowing the defensive depth, and you're having issues right now on the back end with Mayfield, right? So it's not like, and not to say that he's a problem necessarily, but you're already having those issues. So shake it up a little bit, do what you got to do if you're going to bring in an asset on the forward side of things. The defense still seems to be okay. I don't really know how it matches up against, you're seeing this month they've played really one good team so far. The Penguins are struggling right now. So even though they're in and around the playoff conversation and have 4 games in hand on the Islanders, as do Detroit and Buffalo, who had a pretty brutal loss to the Maple Leafs last night. O'Reilly scoring a hat trick against his old team. The game against the Bruins really showed an enormous ineptitude that that the Islanders have on the whole. Lack of skill, lack of ability, that shutdown nature that they had, and that's with Mayfield. I'm not exactly sure he's the one that's going to be locking it down for you. He has gotten a lot of minutes. Like I think trying to just get your player that are performing out there the most, but he could be an asset.
Nassim Hockey is brought to you by DraftKings. The action never ends at DraftKings Sportsbook, especially this summer. With tons of ways to bet on all your favorite sports, you can fuel your fandom and feel the heat of the season like never before. Plus, right now, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new customers a risk-free bet at up to $1,000. That's right, make your first bet up to $1,000, and if it doesn't win, you'll get another shot to cash in. You can throw down on all major action for baseball, golf, MMA, and more. Plus, with same-game parlays, spreads, money lines, over-unders, and props, your betting options feel endless. You know this summer, we're going to bet on Aaron Judge, who just re-signed with the New York Yankees, to hit plenty of home runs. Best of all, DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. You can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you'd like. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code THPN, make your first deposit, and get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code THPN, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Nassim and Hockey is also brought to you by Raycon. This time of year, everyone's talking about making big changes, which is all well and good, but most of the time, pretty unrealistic. For example, if you're an NHL team that's not making the playoffs but want to trade for a big player, why are you going to risk your future? However, I've actually found that the smallest changes to your routine can make the biggest impact. In the same way, you don't have to break the bank to make a big deal purchase. Even the smallest things can be part of a big change if it's something that you use every day, like my Raycons. Raycon is premium audio at the perfect price point, so you can build great habits without breaking the bank. Now, whenever I'm cooking my meals, I wear my Raycons, and I have the noise cancellation so that when I'm trying to concentrate on my recipe, I can tune everything out. Whether you're looking for a pair of everyday earbuds, low-latency gaming headphones, or a speaker with a battery that will last all night at your next party, Raycon's got you covered. And yep, you guessed it, Raycons start at half the price of other premium audio brands. So you don't have to choose between products. You can get one of each, or a pair and a spare, and still pay less than you would with other brands. Even if you know you'll love your Raycons as much as I do, Raycon wants to make sure you feel great about your purchase. They offer buy now, pay later options, and every purchase has an easy and free return guarantee. My favorite features on my Raycons are the noise isolation mode like I mentioned earlier, or the awareness mode when you can still listen to your audio and hear everything going on outside of the audio. So you ready to buy something small with a big impact? Go to buyraycon.com/THPN today to get 15% off your Raycon order. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score 15% off. buyraycon.com/THPN.
Varlamov could be an asset.
Yeah.
I question, just as I kind of have forever, as Sorokin, when Sorokin came in, getting a solid backup's really tough. But you could get, you can get an asset for Varlamov, probably a first-round pick, and you can get maybe a second or a third for Mayfield, and then you got something to work with here, right? Then you gave up Horvat, and you could just stay right there, right? Hopefully Barzal comes back. Hopefully Peugeot comes back. You have Durandu, who had a great first game. We'll see how he responds in the future. Martin seems to be invigorated on that quote first line with Lee and Horvat. What can the team do? How, as far as the rest of the season? Definitely a big game against the Jets. But continue your thoughts on where the team is.
Yeah, no, I mean, you kind of said it where, they get it's again, they get shellacked against the Boston Bruins, and again, they're the best team in the NHL, so maybe it's to be expected, but
not like that.
It's
if you want to talk
right.
about that really quickly, that was
I mean, they got
outclassed.
manhandled, manhandled. Like there was
And
just a NHL team versus an ECHL team. I'm gonna go a step below the AHL. Like
yeah,
that's
and
how
so
it
how do
looked.
we so like if they're gonna make the playoffs, right?
Well,
And
hold on before we get there. Like
yeah, go
that's the
ahead.
thing, right? But in order to make the playoffs, right now they're in terms of points percentage, they would be out. Right, Buffalo's better than them. I think Detroit's getting close. Maybe even have already leapfrogged them. I'm not quite sure. So at this point, we're looking at the trade deadline to be in less than 10 days. Well, Matthew Barzell is going to be week to week, and it's possible it goes until the start of playoffs if they make it. What do they have uh, to sell in terms of getting something back, in terms of being a buyer, right? You have to give to get. So what do they have to give up in order to be a buyer? Not much after, they got Paul Horvat. Ratu's gone, Beauvillier's gone, your first round pick is gone. At least top 12 protected. But, there's not much left that they can give up. Maybe Iskakov is appealing to someone. Durando is playing pretty well. Maybe somebody's looking at him and saying, "Oh, not bad." Maybe Samuel Bolduc, but you're not going to get too much in return. And now the thing that I keep going back to is they should be strategic sellers. And I know, I said earlier I was an optimist, but in my opinion, I look at what other teams are doing. I'm also a realist, and the reality here is they're going to get to the playoffs and they're going to get shellacked because they're going to get the Bruins in the first round if they get there, or they're going to get the Hurricanes, and they're going to get again manhandled. And again, I know we've seen what the Islanders can do, and once they get to the playoffs, and we believe yada yada. I get it. This team is not ready to go on this run, and the other thing I do understand is wanting to have a playoff series in that building, which they have not had yet. But you're not. It's going to be 2 games and out, right? They're not
There's
going to have
there's
home ice
something
advantage.
there's something different about this team than those other teams. I don't know if it's just a Barry Trotz effect thing, if it's I'm not really sure. Something has changed in the energy around this team. Um, the leadership definitely stepped up. You had guys like um Martin and Johnston kind of reviving that, just kind of more of an old school. If we're not going to beat you um purely on the scoreboard or with skill, we're gonna try to use our toughness to win those games. That might work in the playoffs. I agree that if that game against Boston showed anything, whether I believe that's the game that Barzell left after like 6 minutes or so, right? On
Yep.
Saturday.
Six
So
minutes and like 30 something seconds.
it's you're 100% right. The Canes and the Bruins are just going to kind of roll over the Islanders just because I think that energy has changed. I don't think that the Boston team that the Islanders beat a couple of years ago in the playoffs, this is not that, right? And that situation
No,
was very different where the Islanders really um, thrived in that particular situation. As difficult as it was, a lot of teams couldn't handle the heat there, right? The Capitals, obviously the Bruins. I'm not necessarily putting them on the same level, but the Islanders kind of were able to get over those humps. I can't even. I'm probably mixing up the years at this point because I can't remember exactly, but in whatever those situations where the Islanders were able to prevail, the energy is different. The leadership and the focus is different on this team. Um, I'm not sure if it's because Andy Green is gone, it's because Trott's gone, because it's not surely not because of Chara, because that was afterwards, but I don't really know what the essence is that's missing. Like that missing link for the Islanders. Um, they're arguably more skilled now, even without Bavilier. You added Horvat. For years, I argued, oh, they were adding scoring. If by subtraction they added scoring, something's still missing though, and it
they
really
still
showed
need a
against the
winger.
Bruins. They still
They
need a
still
winger, but I think it's just looking. I'm looking at the February schedule here. They they played one. Now, granted, Seattle is probably an overlooked game because they're pretty good this season, right?
yeah.
And they went in there and won 4-0, And that was a good win that really could have, and that was their second win, 4 in a row after the All-Star break. That was really important. And then you kind of lay an egg in 3 consecutive games against Vancouver, Montreal, and Ottawa. And it just changes the trajectory of the season. 6 more points in having 4 games in hand is insurmountable, right? You put yourself in. Now, forget the fact that they'd also be at a certain point then pushing the Rangers for 3 in the division with 6 more points. But at least if you're not going to do that, right? We're just going to get the first wild card and go from there. You would at that point have separated yourselves enormously. 4 points, you would have separated yourself enormously from the pack. Those 4 games, it wouldn't have mattered, right? And then you go and you beat Pittsburgh twice, and then you really create that separation as far as now you have the tiebreaker, right? And those are 4-point games in and of themselves. Now what? The only thing that's keeping the Islanders afloat right now is that, Florida's surged. Pittsburgh's not been good. The Capitals have not been good. And Detroit had enough room to make up that the Islanders, they had some space in between. That's all that's keeping the Islanders where they are at this point, right? Their games in hand, Florida and the Islanders have both played 60 games, and surprise, they're both in the spots. And the teams are right on their heels behind them. A couple wins away, and it's a different story.
The trend I notice here too, and then I'm looking at the schedule, is the games that they've won are against those older teams who have that structure, but maybe they're not as fast as maybe some of the younger teams that they lost against, right? Ottawa has the Stutzlers, the DeBrinkets, and the Kachucks. Montreal has the Suzukis and the Docs, and Vancouver has the Pedersens, and Philly was there, and JT Miller. They have JT Miller's not young, but Kuzmenko. They have these younger, faster guys who it just felt like the Islanders couldn't keep up with those teams. Ironically, those are also the teams at the bottom of the league, and a team like Boston can figure out how to stifle them and stop them and prevent them from scoring. But that's just exactly what the situation looks like to me as I'm looking at this schedule here. Right, they beat Philly, they beat Pittsburgh twice. They did not do well against Boston, even though they fit that older yet slower mold, but they're just so structured and skilled. It doesn't even matter. And they have the perfection line and whatnot. The outlier here really is Seattle. Maybe Seattle had a bad game. It was the first one back for them from the All-Star break and everything. And I think they've actually been not too great in the second part of the schedule after the All-Star break, but that it's neither here nor there. That the trend is they can't beat those faster teams, those younger, faster teams, and that's why they dropped those couple games that we didn't expect them to drop. I had said to you those are must-win games last time, and they lost all of them.
Looking at the standings now, where everything's even become tighter, absolutely those are must-win games. Yeah. Again, even 2 points, right, which is like lowering the bar significantly, right? Because they should have had at least 4. You got into a little bit of a barn burner with Vancouver. Fine. You don't love that. It happens. You drop it, you learn from it, you move on. The fact that, and I still maintain, I'm still confused at how this kind of happened. That I'm just not sure what the direction of the team is still.
So
right? You lose 4 out of 6. And you got points in 4 of 6. Like it's, and they're against.
So and that's the thing right now. Now in the next 4 games, Winnipeg, LA, Winnipeg, Minnesota. No easy games in those next 4. Then comes 3 days off, and one of those days is the trade deadline. These next 4 games are going to determine what Lamoriello does, and that's really the crux of it. Because
do you think it's a little bit of both? Like if it's just the right
he's not going to sell. He's not.
I'm not saying straight up sell, like he's taking something. He's just simply selling Varlamov to get an asset, right? It's because it would precipitate something else.
Right.
He's like, okay, I need someone's asking for this for like, he's like, oh, okay, I know that it's going to take who's a random player the Islanders would never get. It's going to take a first round pick and X prospect, even a B level prospect to get McDavid. Okay, how can I get that?
Right.
Okay, well, I can trade Varlamov and see what I can get and see if I can flip that for McDavid. And
the
like
other
that
thing
might,
too
like I
is
said, I don't think it's one or the other. Or rather, I don't think it's sell. I agree with you that it's not sell, but only if it means that he's going to buy something else. Or he might just
right.
be, he might do that just simply to just see where the Islanders fall at the end of the season and use it as capital at the draft, on the draft floor. Like it doesn't need to be at the deadline, right? Like I
Right.
think having that perspective to say, okay, he did sell something that might not necessarily mean anything as far as this season is concerned, but it may mean something for the summer and the draft and so on.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And the thing is too, it could just come down to if they're out of it, let's just say they lose two of the next four and the math doesn't look good. One of two things could happen here. If they win two out of the next four, they go into the draft and Lamoriello is sitting there saying, okay, I think we're close enough that we can still do this thing. I'm not going to sell. Maybe I'll add a depth piece like they did with Coburn a few seasons ago. And that'll be it. Because if you think about it, they did add at the deadline just early. They got Bo Horvat, right? Um, or someone comes knocking on the door and blows him away with an offer that he can't refuse for a Mayfield or for Lamov. As far as Zach Parise, I don't. I think he gets the same treatment as Chara and Green, where he'll say, "Look, I got this offer for you. If you want to go, I'll send you. If you don't, it's up to you."
Yeah, it's very rare. I saw somebody, I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Scott Wheeler or Andrew Berkshire or somebody um, mentioned it's very, very rare that a player gets traded and comes back. Right.
Right.
Like that's as much as you kind of want to believe that might happen. Sorry, I'm like looking down. If you're watching on video, I'm still kind of technically working and just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. It's just very rare that happens. So I think it's not really fair to cross your fingers like that. I'd love for Varlamov and Lamoriello to have a deal that he just comes back at next summer or this summer,
Yeah.
and like, all right, hey, you understand our situation, blah blah blah, because it's yes, it's a business, but it's also very disruptive to people's lives, and you don't want to have that reputation necessarily. And around the league, no one's going to know that deal is in place, so it's complicated. You don't want to. The Islanders are probably known, and look, Horvat signed, really quickly, regardless of whatever kind of tampering you think happened or whatever the case is. He still signed the dot. Like he didn't need to do that.
Right.
He could have just like, oh, I can get my money elsewhere. I can go to a different team. Although I think it's really complicated with cap space and so on. Opportunity to play with Barzell, yada yada. It's definitely not as it's not like what it used to be with the Islanders, where players don't want to come here, but you don't want to ruin that. It took so long to kind of get to this point. Granted, like Palmieri signed, Peugeot signed, Horvat signed. I think those are all good things. Romanov, whatever that's worth. Sorokin, after all of those years, signed. It's a good sign. Like those are, and the Pellics who have grown up on the Islanders, the Pulaks and the players that have just been on the team, and not really counting Bailey in that situation. But players want to stay that have been in multiple generations of the Islanders, new generations of Islanders, trade deadline acquisitions. It's complicated. So I think that's, if you trade Mayfield, he's gone forever. And you have a Grant Hutton, right? It's not like there isn't a replacement there that we've seen play in that role and have success. So it's
Well,
not
I think at
impossible
this
to
point,
imagine that.
Bolduc is the top of that list. I think he would come
Is he a righty?
and maybe not.
I think that's my question. So I'm thinking about a direct Mayfield replacement that's a year or two younger on a cheaper contract, although Mayfield is already on a really cheap contract. Bolduc could be something else, right? I don't know. It's interesting with Romanov, Bolduc, Witherspoon, Aho that stepped up. Romanov is going to be interesting moving forward because he has not blown anybody away. He's still so young, but I think there's going to be something that changes here. Like he's got to stop. How many years does he have? 2, 3, whatever. It's going to be um it's going to be interesting what happens with him moving forward. I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen there. He might not be an Islander for forever. He might be one of those RFA trades and they have to do it while his value's high. And that's not right now. I'm not suggesting they trade him at the deadline, right? But he's not played like great. Like Mayfield's outplayed him, Aho's outplayed him. You can argue Bolduc, although that's a very small sample size. Even what's his face? Cholowski? Is that his name? I forget his first name. He played really well. Dennis. You could argue that he played really well in his role at the Oilers, and Romanov's kind of just been tough at times and big hits, but I haven't seen much improvement. What do you think about him?
I think I like him. Has he been a second pairing guy? Probably not. He's probably been more of a third pairing guy, but I'd be hesitant to move on from him unless it's something that like you absolutely need, just because I think he's your quintessential third pairing guy. He's still only 24, and I think there is still room for growth. So I do like his makeup. I like his tools. He's just got to put it all together.
Yeah, I was hoping that he could be like a Pulak light with a little bit of toughness.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like a combo Mayfield Pulak, where he's got a shot, he has a little bit of offensive instinct. He's young, so he's got some energy and some jump in his game, but he can still hit. Kind of, has that desire to do that. It's like a perfect middle pair, especially someone to play with Dobson. That hasn't really worked out, right? That combination of Romanov, the bottom four has been a problem, save for Dobson kind of putting up points. Although I think he's cooled off a little bit. I'm not sure where his production is as compared to last season, in what I believe was a career year. But that bottom four has been tough. Outside of Pelican Pulak, they're trying different combinations. Lambert even said that recently. It's been really complicated to kind of see that through and see what the possibilities might be. So that's why, if you're going to maybe trade a Mayfield and you're going to put Romanov on your third pair permanently, I don't know who you pair with him at that point. I don't know how things kind of change there. Maybe it's Hutton Romanov, although that might be tough. That might not look good. But I'm, I think that's what they're going through right now. There's not a clear path forward as far as that bottom four is concerned, even though it's really only 75% of your bottom four, right? Because Dobson is good. No, you can't take anything away from him. Aho is even good. Have they played together a lot? Good. Aho and Dobson?
Yeah. I think are they actually together tonight? I think they're together tonight too.
I'm seeing more Jets things than Islanders things. Yeah, Aho, Dobson. Yeah, I mean, by and large, they played well together on the offensive side of the puck. It's just on the other side that practice following or before the Ottawa game where they were, boxing out and the back check and even Pelican Pulak. Both two guys went to one guy the other night against Pittsburgh. I wanted to go. Holmstrom just didn't finish his check and didn't follow his guy in the net. There's very simple things in their own end that aren't working that, frankly, despite not scoring goals, and you got to remember, so they scored 4 goals against Pittsburgh, 5 goals against Pittsburgh. They can score goals, right? They scored 2 against Boston. That's a problem. But maybe that game's closer and they tie it at 3 if the defense has their shit together. Although, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of those goals were power play goals for Boston, which is a different problem, especially going into the playoffs. You want your penalty kill to be a little bit tighter than what the Islanders have done lately, frankly. But I don't want to cut the conversation short. Unfortunately, we're doing this in the middle of the day. Any kind of closing thoughts? I have like a few minutes to kind of do that. Rare game day midday recording, as we mentioned.
Nice.
it was nice on a couple levels. I wanted to make sure we just had a conversation about the team without it being overly structured. Perhaps following the way the Islanders have played this season, just lack of structure and kind of seeing where it goes.
Yeah, my only takeaway from this is the last time we spoke, we said let's see where they're at in a week from now because that should probably determine their direction. Um, at this point, we've seen, and they're pretty much in the same exact spot, although they've gained one spot in the standings. The math, mathematically, they're in the same place. This time next week, they'll have finished those 4 games. We'll see where they're at then. If they win 3 out of 4, at least, I could see them doing something to at least bring in a bottom 6 piece. And if not, then I think that's really we could see another stand pat deadline, which they didn't really quote unquote stand pat. They got Bo Horvat already, but that was his big swing, and they'll in the summer retool for next year. I think they should be recouping assets to work with in the summer. This draft people are going crazy over, and I'm sure people will pay for those draft picks to get them if the Islanders traded for them now. But we'll see. We could have a real clear picture by this time next week, March 1st, my birthday, on what the Islanders are going to do.
So I won't be on the show next week because I'm traveling for work. Isles Fixes Joe Buono will be on the show with James to talk a little bit about his book, a little pre-deadline conversation, I'm sure. So I'll be back the second episode of March. Look forward to a little bit of a break, and I'll get to listen to the show as a fan, which is really interesting. Every once in a while, we both get to do that. It's a little bit of an out-of-body experience listening to the show that you're typically on, but sometimes it's nice to have something to listen to on the flight back from DC. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Nesman Hockey. You can find James' work at the Fourth Period. Make sure to subscribe to Isles Fix and pick up his new book. Pick up Joe's new book. It's super cool. I actually really am excited to learn more about it and maybe even pick up a copy. I learned K is not for Kasperitis, and that broke my heart a little bit.
He is in it, though.
He is in it, I heard. So I got to figure out where. I'll have to ask him. But James, bring us home.
Until next time, all. Let's go Islanders.